Go the Distance, Chapter 4. An offer Meg can't refuse. On Mount Olympus. You've made your point. I need to deal with the loss of my mother. What's that got to do with this quest? Meg knew she sounded more aggravated than she should, considering she was speaking to the mother of the guy who she really cared about, who just so happened to be a god married to the All-Father of gods. Thankfully, Hera didn't appear ruffled. She quickly glanced at her husband and Hercules again. You'll understand with time. For now, all you'll need to worry about is finding the lost Aulus of Athena. Meg wasn't sure she understood. So, to become a god, all I have to do is track down Athena's double flute? Hera smiled. That's the first step. Ah, there it was, the catch. Finding Athena's flute, which she had to assume wasn't just lost in a clearing or hiding under a rock, wouldn't be as simple as Hera made it sound. The last time she made a deal with a god, it had ended with her losing her soul. What would happen if she risked her life for this quest and failed? Well, one thing was certain. Hades would never let her leave the underworld again. Meg shuddered at the thought. She did not want to return there anytime soon. Although she became a god, she wouldn't have to return at all. She'd be a god, an actual god, and when she really thought about it, she'd make a heck of a great one. She wouldn't be all judgy and hurl angry lightning bolts like Zeus. No, she'd forgive people for their mistakes, like Hercules had forgiven her for the countless wrong decisions she'd made before he walked into her life. And as formal mortal, she and Hercules would have insight in the world in a way those ethereal gods wouldn't. Together, the two of them could do a lot of good up on Mount Olympus. As she knew from her own experience, the gods didn't always get things right. Megara looked up at the gates to Mount Olympus again and wondered, what if? You should know, I don't take offers lightly, Hera said, starting to sound impatient. If you find what is lost and complete the tasks that follow, you will rise to Mount Olympus as a god and spend an eternity with my son. Eternity? That word felt like a water nymph's punch to the stomach, instantly taking the wind out of her sails. Eternity? As in forever? Her longest relationship had lasted a year, and look how that ended. How did she know she and Hercules wouldn't even make it that long? Sure, she wanted them to have a chance to figure out their relationship without Zeus interfering. But if she did as Hera asked, could she spend an eternity with Wonder Boy? The gods were forever deceiving one another, fighting and taking lovers. Is that what she and Hercules were signing up for if she did this? But then what was the alternative? Hera interrupted her thoughts. I believe you're familiar with flutes, are you not? So Hera did know about her past. Meg hadn't picked up a flute since Aegeus, but just the word evoked memories and music in her mind that she hadn't dared to think about in a long time. Yes, I know how to play, Meg admitted hoarsely. Hera nodded. Good. Music will come in handy on your journey. And that's final. Meg and Hera looked up. Zeus was storming through Mount Olympus's gates, which closed firmly behind him. Hercules' whole frame seemed to shrink in defeat, and Meg felt a pull at her heart. It wasn't just the way he always looked at her, with a mix of genuine joy and longing rolled into one, or his appearance, although he wasn't hard on the eyes with those rippling pectorals. She found herself drawn to those kind blue eyes and the hard line of his jaw, which moved when he was thinking. It was the dimples in his cheeks when he flashed her that magnetic smile, and the way his reddish blonde hair had a single curl that was always falling in front of his eyes. But mostly it was that earnest nature of his, and his need to find the good in every situation, which was so different from how she viewed life, and gave her hope that the world could be more than she imagined it could be. All she knew that she wasn't ready to say goodbye to him. Meg looked at Hera. Thank you for the generous offer. I accept. Immediately, she felt something in her hand. It was an hourglass. Inside it, pink sand, the color of Hera, was piled high on one end. The other end was empty. Slowly, pink sand grains began to flow to the empty side of the glass. You have 10 days to complete your quest, Hera said. I wish you well, Megara. Then the god disappeared. 10 days? Meg froze. Hera hadn't said anything about a deadline. What happened when the time ran out? Wait! I have questions! Come back! Meg cried just as Hercules reached her at the bottom of the steps. I'm so glad you're still here. He placed his arms around her. Are you all right? What were you and my mother talking about? Meg buried her face in his chest and breathed in his scent. She had a sudden desire to stay right there in his arms and forget all about the hourglass. Oh, nothing much. Your mother just gave me a quest. A quest? Hercules repeated. Why? So much for forgetting. Meg lifted her head and looked at him, curious and worried, his brow wrinkling slightly. He really was something. If I prove myself worthy and complete her tasks, she'll make me a god so we can be together. Hercules' eyes widened as he processed her words. Then his face broke into a wide smile. That's amazing! He lifted her into the air and spun her around. She laughed, despite herself. He gently placed her back down on the cloud, keeping his arms around her. Yeah, wonderful for you. You don't have to go out on the quest. Meg's fingers traced his ample shoulder blade. I have 10 days and counting. She showed him the hourglass. 10 days is a lot of time. You can do it, Meg, he said in earnest. You can do anything you put your mind to. I know it. He lifted her again and spun her faster this time. She pounded her fists in his back, laughing. Put me down. Didn't I just say I have a deadline? Sorry. Hercules gently lowered her. I'm just so excited. If you become a god, we can be together forever. There was that idea again. Meg took a deep breath. Quests aren't easy. He looked at her. Anything is easier than talking to my father. Herc sighed. I tried to convince him how much good I could do on Earth, but he feels I belong here. He smiled wide again. But now you can be too. If my mother believes in us, we can't fail. Hera loves love, and she loves me. She wants us to be happy. Hercules cocked his head, taking Meg's hand in his. What does she want you to do? She only told me my first step. I have to find Athena's double flute. Meg explained as a cloud drifted past them, shrouding them both in mists. Any clue where it might be? Hercules' face darkened. I heard it was stolen by a river guardian somewhere. Meg relaxed. A river guardian? They're not so bad. Herc shook his head. Meg, they're huge and mean. Don't you remember Nessus? She gave him a look. Sorry, I know you can take care of yourself. I just don't see how Mother would give you a quest and not offer some sort of clue as to where to find the flute. It's a big world out there. That's true. Come on, Hera. What am I missing? Meg thought, looking at the hourglass again for clues. That's when she noticed something small etched to the top of the vial. She hadn't seen it before. It was a single word. Confucia. Does this word mean anything to you? Meg held the hourglass out to Hercules again. I think that's an island. It must be one of the lesser Cyclades. That's right around here. He turned Meg toward the edge of the cloud and pointed to a large swath of blue below, with a series of tiny islands peppered around it. Whoa, not so close to the edge. She took several steps back before she got vertigo. If she did become a god, it would take some time to get used to the height. Sorry, Hercules said. Hey, Confucia is kind of near Phil's island. You should take him with you. Oh, no. Meg backed away even more. That red-faced mini-menace hates me. Phil doesn't hate you. He just thought you were a distraction. Hercules paused. And he wasn't happy when he found out you were working with Hades. But that's all in the past. Phil likes you now, and he'd be a great guide. Hercules might not have picked up on it, but she knew there was no love lost between her and that satyr. I like your enthusiasm, but I don't need help. I can do this on my own. I know. He nuzzled her face. I still wish I could go with you. We both know that's not going to happen, Meg said softly. Hercules pulled away. Maybe there is a way. I can be there. At least for a little bit. I have an idea. Hold on. He dashed to the other side of the cloud and returned at an impossibly quick speed. Meg couldn't believe he had been immortal only a few hours ago. To watch him now, one would have thought he had been a god his entire life. He came closer, gripping 2 small saddlebags in one hand and holding out a bright fuchsia orchid on the other. This is for you." "It's beautiful," Meg said, taking the flower from him. She'd never seen an orchid like this. The color glowed like the gods. "This orchid is powerful. Phil told me all about this once. It's as rare as ambrosia and only grows on Mount Olympus. Think of it like having your own messenger to the gods. If you want to reach me, rip off one of the petals, say my name, and I'll be here." "Well, I'll be." She gently pinned the stem to the clasp of her gown. "There's only 3 petals on here. What happens if I run out?" There was that crinkle in his brow again. "I won't be able to get another one. This was the only flower fully matured I could find." He touched her face. "But you won't need another. I know you can do this. Then we can be together." "Yes." Meg tried to push her doubts aside. She'd died, been saved from the river Styx, and then offered the chance to become a god all in one day. It was a lot to swallow for any girl. "You're my world, Meg." Hercules cupped her face in his large hands. "I can't imagine living an eternity without you. Be careful out there." For some reason, his warning made her think of her mother. "I'm a big, tough girl. I'll be all right. I tie my own sandals and everything." Wonder Boy smiled and leaned in for a kiss. His lips had barely grazed hers before they both heard a rumble of thunder. There was a popping sound, and Hercules admired the wings on his hat flapping wildly. "Greetings, lovebirds. Zeus sent me here to move this goodbye along." Meg could see the storm clouds rolling in again behind them. The last thing she wanted was another appearance by Zeus. She tightened her fingers around the hourglass. There was a trace amount of pink sand in the bottom of it already. "I should go." Hercules held her tight. "Let me send Pegasus with you." She opened her mouth, ready to protest. "You'll be able to travel way faster with him than you can by foot." The horse trotted over, and Hercules hung the 2 saddlebags on his back. Meg looked at him curiously. "Supplies," he explained. She inhaled, taking in Hercules' sweet scent one more time. "Okay," she smiled softly, placing the hourglass in one of the bags as she leaned in again to kiss her. At that moment, Pegasus bumped her from behind, swooping her up onto his back. He started galloping toward the edge of the cloud before Meg could even say goodbye. "Wait!" she cried, closing her eyes and hanging onto Pegasus for dear life. "Keep your hands on Pegasus's back at all times," said Hermes, as Meg and Pegasus went galloping past him. "Enjoy your ride to Confucia." Pegasus plunged off the side of the cloud, and Meg's scream could be heard throughout Mount Olympus.